Hi everyone, welcome to another Trail Runs Live. We've got another Trail Tales for you, and this week we're joined by Charlie Harper. Thanks very much for joining, Charlie.
No worries. Good to be here.
How are you on this Saturday in February? You survived?
Oh, yeah, it's all right. Yeah, I had all of the plans tonight. I was going to go out and I cancelled them though. So
Oh well,
here I am.
I'm glad that you did because you've certainly got some running stories and motivation for people. So yeah, we'll just get into a bit of your running and kind of what you do. But I guess you specialize in trail and ultra running is your thing.
Yeah, that's my bread and butter, I think.
And you're I was I mean I know a bit about your background, but you only got into running. Was it 2012 was when you
Yeah,
first got into running?
yeah, that was the sort of turning point year, I think.
Was that
Uh,
was that road running back then?
yeah, it was. It was actually slightly depressed architecture student. Um, I don't know. The idea at the time was that there are a few European cities that I wanted to see from an architectural point of view, and I thought, what better way to go and see them than to go over and do the city marathon, which wasn't actually that revealing architecturally, but it was still quite an epic experience. But there were, I just thought, well, I haven't really. I'm sure I could do a marathon. I'll give it a go. So I signed up to them a few weeks apart, which was also a very bad move. But I went over there, and first one was in Oslo in September 2012, and that was I couldn't walk for quite a few days after that, but I didn't, and then I didn't run for 3 weeks before going to Cologne to do that marathon in there, and sort of got around that, and I don't know, it was sort of hooked. There's quite a big buzz, and it was just great having something to aim towards, and distract myself, and yeah, so I sort of built on that the next year. Started running trails and things like that.
Oh, cool. So did you go straight in with the marathon then? Was that, or had you kind of built up to it?
I did a half when I was at university in Bath, and um, but I was a cyclist at the time and a hockey player, so I sort of had a sort of base fitness, and I just had quite a lot of my friends in Bath were signing up to do the half marathon, and I thought I'd give that a go. So I sort of had that as experience,
Yeah, yeah.
and yeah,
I think that's how, I don't know, speaking to a lot of people, that's how they get roped into these sort of things. They end
yeah,
up kind of getting dragged along by friends, or they know someone who's going to do an event and then they want to do it as well. And that's sort of
yeah.
what but yeah, no, that's really cool. I mean, going abroad to do a marathon is, I love that. It's obviously something we can't do at the moment, and I
Yeah.
miss that. I've done a few myself. How was that experience for you? Sort of getting into the mindset of the training and then going and doing it. Was it?
Well, the training training for the first one or two was fairly uh, non-existent, I think, really. So I was just sort of winging it. But you know, over the next sort of years, where I started getting more consistent training and that sort of thing, and I don't know, it made running that little bit more engaging. Um, as soon as I had a more of a plan, I don't know, I started to get into the swing of things, and then I started sort of improving as an athlete, I think.
Yeah. And what, I guess, what was the attraction to the marathon distance?
Um, I think there's just I think there's a really foolish machismo um, to it. There's a sort of that's meant to be sort of the limits of this is before I got into ultra running, the
Yeah,
limits of sort of human capacity. I'm pretty sure I could do that. That's something that I could do. Um, so I don't know. I think it was something stupid probably around that,
I think
or
that's.
maybe I was looking to punish myself at the time.
I agree with that. I think there is something about it when when people are talking about the marathon distance, it is meant to be one of those, you know. that's as far as you meant to push yourself.
Yeah,
And that's what appeals.
I know. That messenger in Greece, when he ran 26 miles, dropped dead.
Exactly.
Did I drop dead? No.
There you go. Go and run further. But yeah, like, let's get into that. So you said you got into more trails after that. What
Yeah.
what was the attraction to the trails?
I think there was so much more connection to running through green things than there was to running around streets.
Yeah.
And I'm from the sort of Essex Suffolk borders originally, and that whole area around the sort of what's known as Constable Country and the Dedham Vale, the Store Valley, and it's such a beautiful part of the world. And so, I mean, it was really on my doorstep at the time. And so, I don't know, when life used to, my probably quite, I went through quite a phase of really not knowing whether my chosen career path was the right thing to do. And I found that running around those valleys, or that valley, was just so good for thinking, and I just felt much more alive than I did just sitting at a computer screen, pushing sort of design details around the screen. So I think that was really the appeal. It's just beautiful.
That's yeah, I wanted to get more into because I obviously know where you're from, uh, around the Suffolk Essex border, and how you know it's a beautiful area of the world. Um, what you know what attracted you to kind of running and just kind of getting out there and getting onto those trails was
I think it was escapism. It was just getting out there, trying to distract myself, and there was quite an element of exploration in there as well. Finding routes and trails, and that I'd seen on an OS map or something like that. Didn't really know where it goes, and sometimes I'd just go out there to get lost, and sometimes I'd just go out there to see how far I could, how far I could go in a certain amount of time, or there's sort of playfulness, I think.
yeah, I think that appeals to a lot of people. Just seeing new places, getting out there, exploring, and also you're for Suffolk, you're also quite blessed down there with a few hills as well. It's an area that I know fairly well,
Yeah.
and it's somewhere that I will go if I'm looking for some hills and something to push me a little bit further.
Yeah, that's it's probably the most mountainous part of a very flat part of the country.
Yeah,
It's still by hills. I mean, they're sort of very small hills that I remember once I had my coach at the time suggested for training for the one of the UTMB races that one session I should run up a hill for 4 minutes, and then run back down, and running up a hill, and I don't know, it took find a hill around there that takes that long to run up unless you sort of walk backwards or something like that. It's difficult.
oh, it's impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do struggle around here, and I, that's something we'll touch on in a minute. I guess is your training for various events and things that you do. I also, I mean, I'm interested to know. You spoke about studying for architecture. My brother's done that himself, and I know it's a long
You
course.
alive? What's he like? Is he interesting to talk to?
He enjoys it. He's an architect now.
All right, sorry, that was a joke.
I know. No, but he was at university for years.
Yeah, it's a long haul.
But you don't do that anymore.
No, I studied 5 years, worked for a couple of years in architecture offices, and and that sort of thing. And I made the decision while I was studying for my part 2, which is sort of year 5 and 6, that I wanted to go and design gardens instead. I sort of had an epiphany. I was out in Sweden at the time studying for my part 2, and I wrote to the boss, my current boss actually, just sort of saying, can I go and work with you and show you what I can do and that sort of thing. And I just had this sort of incredible desire to have more green in my life. It sort of meant more to me, I think. So yeah, I jumped ship in that sense.
And that's what you're doing full time now, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I'm a horticulturist and a landscape designer at the moment. So really, I'm working in landscape architecture, but with a heavy gardening emphasis.
And so. How do you fit training around work and working full time?
You fit it in whenever you can. If you want to go for a run, even if you've got a very busy day ahead, you can just get up that little bit earlier or go to bed that little bit later. But as you know, it's very dark at this time of year, so most of the running is in the dark and the cold, as I guess it is for everyone. But that's how I fit it in, and then longer runs at the weekend when get a little bit more time and a little bit more daylight.
I think I've seen before that you tend to do you run commute, or was that?
Yeah. So I used to up until last September I was a student, and I worked for Kew Gardens, and that was a sort of convenient 11 miles to there from where I live currently in London. And so I would, it was quite a good little run commute. I would make up, I would use the overground sometimes if I didn't want to do the full 11 miles. And then as soon as COVID came in, you were furloughed if you relied on public transport in any way. So I ended up just mainly running, doing it, and vice versa, running and cycling back and forth from Kew. But I think run commuting, if you can do it, is definitely the best way to economize on time. It was getting me there, probably not too much slower than walking to the station, getting the train, and then walking from the other end. It was about sort of the same time, oddly enough. The only difference is that you needed a shower at the other end, but that didn't really matter.
No, true. If you can make time for that, it's definitely a good use of that kind of idle time that you'd normally just be sat down, doing nothing, or reading a book, or I don't know. You'll listen to a podcast on the run if you want to, or anything like that.
Audiobooks are good. That's how I do most. That's how I did do most of my reading, really.
Was it? Yeah.
Audiobooks.
No, it's a great. I mean, I tend to listen to a lot of podcasts when I go running because it's it's a good time and you can continue learning and hearing about all different things. So I love that. Let's get into your kind of racing career, I guess. So since you got into it in 2012, did some marathons, and then things really, I don't know, kind of blew up in the last few years for you, I guess. I mean, I've got some of your highlights in front of me, but you, I mean, you went sub 3 hours, Gloucester 50k, which is a pretty big result, taking first place. You got the British 100k championship in 2019, was that?
Yeah.
6 hours 44. Is that right?
Yeah, it's nothing on Jim Walmsley, but
no, but that's the fastest Brit that year, right?
Yeah.
You must be happy.
Yeah. It's great. And the thing is that because the championships was cancelled last year, I get to keep the trophy.
Result.
Yeah.
Wait, were you planning on going back?
Yeah, well, actually, no, I wasn't. So I was hoping to run in the World Championships, which was meant to be last September. And I didn't really want to fit 2 fast, full-blown 100Ks in that sort of short amount of time. I think the Anglo-Celtic Plate, which is the British Championship, was in May or something like that. But I sort of wanted to do one particular properly, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But then that, last year everything fell apart, as you know.
Yeah.
So ended up not doing either.
Disappointing. Hopefully there'll be a chance this year. I mean, I don't know. I guess we see how things go. Yeah, I think last year was one of those years for a lot of people where a lot of events just didn't happen. There were a few events that went ahead. But yeah, for the most part, I think it was, for people, they've had to kind of refocus and look at different goals. What got you into the ultra scene? And what was your first ultra that you did?
First ultra was the Store Valley Path.
Right. Okay.
In 2015, and that was, I hadn't run further than a marathon before, but I just loved the area so much.
Yeah.
So I thought, yeah, I'll give that a go. It'd be interesting. I really liked the idea of doing a point-to-point race, having an objective.
Yeah.
And doing something like running the entire length of the River Store, was appealing. So I signed up to that and did that.
Okay, I didn't realise you'd done that one actually. I've done it a few times, and it's a great.
You got a black T-shirt?
I have now. Yeah, I got it this year.
Nice one.
We went ahead this year.
Yeah,
it's a great local event, and I actually had a question from a local runner, Andrew Jobling, who runs in Colchester, and he said, were you tempted to kind of come back and take on the sort of course record on the SVP?
It's a pretty good course record at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it was set this year actually, by another sort of local runner, Chris Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty quick, so it'd be a good run.
Yeah. Well, when it's on again, maybe I'll come back and have a go.
Never know. Hopefully,
I'd have to move pretty quick.
It'd be good to see you out there, and because I think so that was your first one, and then did you sort of build up after that? So, well, I don't know. What's your what was your journey after that, essentially?
Well, that was the thing that got me hooked.
Okay.
And so I sort of sporadically entered races after that. Did a couple of the Endurance Life events, and that was pretty good. I went back to the Store Valley Path again, and I think in 2017, and then did sort of things like the Brecon Beacons Ultra, and I don't know. I think it sort of started probably seriously in 2018 when I decided to get a coach.
Okay.
And that sort of helped me focus a lot more. I wasn't very good at sort of managing my race calendar and pacing in races and eating right for races, and I made so many mistakes, which we all do, and we use them as learning exercises. And I had quite a few learning exercises in those first couple of years of ultras. Yeah.
Did I don't know? Did you find you were sort of entering too many races and not resting enough between them? Or?
Yeah, exactly right. I was, there was one year I did a marathon in London in 2017, and they're called the Thames Meander, and then I went and did the Brecon Beacons Ultra the following weekend or something like that. And at the time, you just think, bodies recover, and I've been doing quite a bit of training. Yeah, of course I can do that. I want to do both races, but and of course that you just don't be stupid. What a ridiculous thing to do.
Yeah, I've been there. I know what it's like. I'm massive.
You just get excited, you
Yeah,
know.
and especially at, if things are going well and you're feeling good, you haven't got any injuries or anything like that. It's
Yeah,
you just want to keep doing it because it's what you
yeah,
enjoy. It's what you love.
exactly. But you can rest assured that if you do it like that, the injuries are going to come.
Yeah, no, yeah, I can vouch for that as well. I've done far too much previously. Do you suffer with injuries yourself?
I've had a couple of little things in over the years. Had a little thing actually at the end of last year, which uh, came and went, but it's enough to, even if it's just there for a short time, it's enough to really, if you become too reliant on running, it's enough to upset you.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so
I'm the grumpiest person in the world if I'm injured.
yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. Um, it's difficult not to be grumpy, and anyone looking in just never seems to understand.
I don't think
So
you unless you're, you're in your own shoes and you're one of those people that, enjoys getting out and then you can't and it's taken away from you. Um,
yeah,
my physio often says, "Oh, you're okay to keep running, just until it hurts, and then
yeah,
stop." Um, so,
good advice.
well, yeah, no, yeah, that's why he's a physio.
Yeah,
um, and so, what's the furthest you've gone, racing or running wise, in terms of
I've done 100 miles.
which one?
Only the once, but that was the South Downs Way
Oh, cool. I was
by Centurion. Yeah.
meant to do it last year, and it got cancelled twice, and now now I can't do it until 2022. So
Oh gosh.
yeah, I was looking forward to that. How is the 100 miles?
I mean, fantastic. That race, if you've got something to look forward to. Um, I think the Centurion races are really, if you're looking for quality ultras in the UK, that's what you got to go and give a go. But the 100, yeah, I hadn't done that before. The furthest I'd done before that was 100k on the Store Valley, and so there's always that towing the line at your first 100 miler. You always, you're never quite sure how it's going to go, and there's definitely that time where you hit the 100 kilometer mark and you think it's like that scene in Lord of the Rings where Samwise Gamgee, no, I think it was, just says, if I take one step further, it'd be the furthest I've ever been from home, or something like that. It's this sort of monumentous moment, and you think, right, anything could happen now.
Yeah,
You just got to ride that wave.
I love that. It
Yeah,
it is. I think I don't know about you, but I think that's one of the attractions of ultra running and pushing yourself is that you literally don't know how it's going to go.
yeah,
There are so many variables that can come in, and weather, kit, nutrition, um, terrain. That you just don't know, do you?
no,
And with the distance as well. Um, yeah, I think that's what I don't know keeps it interesting for sure.
absolutely.
So you got any aspirations to do more 100 milers or anything
Oh
further?
yeah. Well, we'll see. I was eyeing up the idea of doing a multi-day race this year, but we'll see if that's allowed to go on. But definitely 100 miles. I was meant to do the Arc of Attrition down in Cornwall, which is sort of really at the top of my bucket list. Actually, it's a race that I've wanted to do for a very long time. I was also, actually and then the West Highland Way race is another that I've really got my eye on actually. Um, uh, yeah, there's lots to do. I'd love to do one of the other Centurion races.
Yeah,
Um, I'd probably go back to the South Downs Way actually, because it's such a nice course.
You're on the Centurion team, aren't you? The elite.
Yeah, that's not the only reason I speak so highly of them.
I agree. I've done a couple of their events and they're really good. Yeah, no, they know how to put on an ultra.
They're a great bunch of guys.
Yeah, they are, and I'd recommend their events to anyone. I don't know if you find this problem when you were just talking about events that you want to do, but they all come up at certain times a year, and it's just impossible to fit in as many as you want to do. Like, I'd love to do more Centurion events, and then I find that they just clash with other things that are going on, and like you said earlier, before you know it, you can end up doing back-to-back races, and it's not sensible.
Well, that's what I find about. I would love to go back to the Store Valley Path 100k, but it sort of clashes horribly with kind of UTMB season and Ultra Vassan season and World Championship season and all of those other things. So, it's getting your priorities right, I think.
Yeah, there's so much, and a lot of it comes in the summer months as well. Talking about the UTMB, you did the CCC, and you were third Brit. Is that right?
I think so. yeah.
That's what I think. What year was that that you went out there to do that?
That was 2018.
Okay. And how do you find that experience compared with sort of racing over here? And I mean, it's like we're saying, I get, training in London, or running in Suffolk like I do, and, areas that, it's hard to train for those events. It's totally different, totally different scene. How do you do that?
I mean, it's such an epic event. I mean, it's a festival.
Yeah.
And sometimes I found the crowds a bit overwhelming.
Okay.
But it's such a buzz, and obviously just completely epic location.
Yeah.
So you've got to give it a go at some point, I think.
I was meant to do it last year. I had a place.
Have you got it carried over?
Yeah, but I've carried that over to 2022.
Okay.
Only because I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen this year, and I've also got my sights on the Lakeland 100 again in July. Of
course, so, yeah.
I thought doing back-to-back July and August would be too much, but I'm desperate to go out there and run it. Just sort of seeing it looks epic.
I mean,
it
is.
How did you find it with the training, kind of gearing up for running in the mountains and that sort?
I saw it as another learning exercise, and that's actually how I got into road 100Ks. Actually,
oh really?
Is because I mean I did it, and I thought I turned up sort of pretty fit, but I didn't have the mountain legs that I needed. And I kept saying that at the time I was living in West London and my training was really running along the Thames Path, and occasionally diverting into Richmond Park, but not really doing more than that. And I sort of got carried away with work and studies, and I thought, right, I'll just jet over to drive over to Snowdon or something like that, do a couple of reps of that to prepare, and I just sort of didn't quite get round to it. So I turned up sort of feeling a bit ominous. How's the vertical going to work out for me?
Yeah.
And I mean, I knew that I didn't quite have the legs to really be sort of contending with the top places, but I just really loved it. It was absolutely fantastic. It was such an experience. So
I think the experience makes a lot of these things as well. Going I can only imagine, but going through some of the sort of villages in, Italy and
Yeah.
France.
I mean, it's fantastic. Just being on the world stage alone, being
Yeah,
with runners from all over the world who've come in from from everywhere, and you've got people out in villages and 4 in the morning with cowbells and going absolutely crazy and just loving it. It's such an amazing atmosphere.
I love it.
And then the weather's very changeable as well, which always
Yeah.
adds a little bit of
How
yeah.
how
So
was the weather for you?
it was it was it was I think it was probably considered quite a good year. There was a point in the second half of the race where the fog really set in, and as soon as it got started to get dark, that became more of a problem because my head torch just sort of illuminated. When you put your headlights on full beam in the fog, and it just doesn't really do anything. It just makes the fog a lot lighter. Well, that's kind of what happened there. But largely it was all right. It rained a bit, and it was generally overcast, but you could still great views of Mont Blanc, and each of the valleys surrounding it. So yeah, it was relatively kind to me. There was no sort of sub-zero temperatures or heat wave temperatures where you had to carry loads of extra kit and that sort of thing. There
Yeah.
was, I think, a rock fall or something like that where they had to do a course diversion for
Oh, wow.
the final stretch on the French side, but that was about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's always interesting the weather on that one because there can be thunderstorms or you get all sorts.
You don't get that in Suffolk.
No, no, it's not
You
quite the
get
same.
very wet winters, but you don't get quite to that
No, it's
extreme.
not the extreme levels of that. Do you fancy taking on the UTMB at all?
I would love to do it one day, but having learned from the CCC, I want to be probably not living in London as I am at the moment.
Yeah.
I want to I would want to focus my attentions on it properly.
Yeah, it requires some serious training.
It's a commitment if you want to really push yourself.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess you could go out over there and just kind of do whatever and get round. But if you do want to push yourself and have a goal,
Yeah,
then it's going to take
yeah,
some serious training.
absolutely. But
Which is
I if you've got that ahead of you, and it's going to be epic. So
worth it, right?
oh yeah, totally.
And I guess quite interested to know how, like, your experience. You went over to the Western States and paced Tom Evans,
Yeah,
in the 100 miler. How was that? Did that give you a taste for getting into some of the big American ultras?
yeah, absolutely. It's really the American UTMB.
Yeah,
I think all ultra runners will know about Western States, and for me, reading books like Scott Jurek's books and Born to Run and things like that back in the early days, you always sort of had that uh, race in your mind,
yeah,
and it didn't disappoint. I met a lot of really interesting people, and Tom and some of the rest of the team would probably take the piss out of me for being starstruck all the time, but it's great. As I said, you read about it and you go over there, and it's just there's such a buzz, and being with Tom in the lead up to his race, um, and seeing how meticulously he prepared for it was inspiring in itself. And they made a film about Tom's race, which is on YouTube, and so there was quite a lot of hype in that sense because we had a film crew with us and a
yeah.
couple of sort of team cars and shooting it, and so capturing a lot of the build up and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's worth a watch if you haven't already.
Yeah, no, I have seen it, and that race has always captured my imagination. Like you say, when you get into ultra running, you hear about it. There's a lot of films about it on
Yeah,
YouTube, and I think I once had a ticket that I entered into the ballot, you know, one of 20 odd thousand tickets for 200 places, and didn't stand a chance. But I'd love to go and have a go at it one day.
Well, keep putting that ticket in.
I know. Oh, I think I forgot.
They do accumulate.
I know I forgot one year. I'll have to, when I get my Lakeland finishing time again, I'll put it back in.
Do that. If you don't get a qualifier in the next year, you can use a one-time buy,
Okay.
which will see you into the draw the following year.
Oh, there you go. That's what I need.
Little tip.
Yeah, I'll do that. Have you got any? Are there any of those sort of big ultras that are on the bucket list?
I mean, I'd love to have a go at Western States at some point, and I don't know about. I feel uneasy about the idea of flying over the other side of the world to do a race, but you know, something like the Tarawera would really appeal. Partly because I've never been to New Zealand, but I don't know. I feel like I can't really justify doing that. When I was doing Western States, I was doing a botanical tour of Oregon and California, so I was sort of doing very important field work and flying the flag for ecology and all sorts of other things. So
there you go.
Anyway,
with a bit of running thrown in as well.
Yeah. But yeah, there's quite a few I quite like to do, but there's so much in the UK actually, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
So the runs at the top of my bucket list are in this country.
Yeah, I mean there are, and there's more and more more and more choice these days, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Which is
I'd like to do, you know, things like 100 miles of Istria in Croatia, which was on the Ultra Trail World Tour, I think, last year.
Oh yeah.
That would appeal. I'd quite like to go back to Sweden to run. I was at the Ultra Vasan in well, I guess it was 2019 now, but got to run against Jim Walmsley there, and that was a very well organised race, and it's kind of like a.
You take the
Sorry.
as well.
Yeah, I was fortunate that day.
Nice.
Yeah, but that's another good race. It's sort of it's sort of undulating, but for a year of that year, the focus was ultra road events, and so the skills are quite transferable. There are some technical sections, but it's quite a fast race, and quite, I don't know whether you know it or not, but quite inspired by Comrades. So that sort of format, 90k, little things like the kilometer markers count you down rather than count you up, or whichever way it is at Comrades that is confusing when you first see it, because I don't know, there's a whole lot of little parallels, and Comrades actually would be something I'd quite like to do. I had a slot on that last year, and then obviously it got cancelled. Yeah.
I've often thought about. I think I've entered the ballot for that previously. I mean, that looks awesome. I know it's road, which isn't my usual sort of bag, but
yeah,
I think just for the experience of doing that, it'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Just watching, I love watching the finish where they're just cutting.
Oh gosh.
At the end. It's like horrible. Because they have a strict cutoff, don't they? And if you literally miss it by a second, the marks, like they won't.
They literally push you away.
It's terrible. But it makes good. It makes a good watch on YouTube if anyone fancies. Have you got? What about any of the kind of rounds? Have you got your eyes set on any of those at all?
Not in the immediate future, but that's stuff. You know, I can see you've got the old Bob Graham thing in the background.
I'm not showing off or anything.
Well, you should be showing off. It's an incredible achievement.
I think that is my biggest achievement, definitely. It was an incredible day out. You know, something I never thought I'd do. And I'd always recommend to runners, like, you know, just push.
You didn't invite me to pace you.
I know, I feel guilty, but you went and won the Store Valley the week after, so I didn't want to kind of,
You
hold.
did that race, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I was
On Bob Graham legs.
struggling somewhere well behind you. Yeah,
Well, that's understandable.
I remember seeing you at the start actually, and you flew around there, sub 3, and I remember my wife Pip saying she was waiting for me in a couple of places, and she'd seen your family, kind of come up to support you, and they were kind of getting set up, and she was like, "Who are you waiting for?" And they said, "Oh, Charlie," and she's like, "Oh, he's long gone. He's flew back."
Yeah. The Store Valley Marathon actually is kind of was really where it sort of started for me, because
Really?
my parents live on the course pretty
Okay.
much. So my standard route whenever I go back there, which hasn't been for a while now, sadly. I was meant to go back for Christmas, but Christmas was cancelled this year.
Yeah.
But I just to go on autopilot, and I just go around that figure-of-8 course. And sometimes I do one half, sometimes I go around the other half, and it's just that I think it's a great course. So I got really, I know it like the back of my hand, I think. So
Yeah.
it's very important run for me, and obviously my family love getting involved with those sort of things, because they can sort of wander out and then go back in time for lunch and see me later, and so they like to get involved.
We see you in a couple of hours. It is such a good course, and it helps if you know it. I think I know it now. I've done it quite a few times, and I use it for if I'm going to do a long run and I want something a bit more.
Yeah.
I'll go and run that course just because it's so
Yeah.
good. Yeah, muddy at this time of year though.
Very muddy. The whole valley floor is sort of submerged.
Yeah, it's a lot nicer in when is that? June, early June.
Yeah, exactly. Gets a bit overgrown later on. So when it goes through there on the Store Valley 100K, I think they had to go in there with the sickles and slash it. So yeah,
it does in places. I've been through there with crops, taller than me, which isn't hard. I'm not the tallest person in the world, but yeah. So yeah, no immediate plans for the rounds, but maybe something in the future.
definitely. Yeah, it's definitely on my radar if I get the time and I'm fortunate enough to get the opportunity to train in that sort of environment. But obviously it's in our sport, it's up there.
Yeah,
There's something to aim for.
We were saying earlier about the kind of 2020 became the year of like the FKT and people going out to themselves over these sort of non-race distances or paths and courses. And the rounds appeal to a lot of people for setting a time. And also I remember we were messaging earlier last year, and you went and ran the Pedder's Way. You weren't going for the FKT, but you managed to set a bit of a record on that one, didn't you?
I did, yeah. It was. I think when they look back on the FKTs of 2020, I think the Pedder's Way probably up there with Pennine Way and all of those other rounds. I think it's probably up there, comparable. I went and did that, and I picked probably the worst possible day to do it.
I remember you doing it. Didn't you have like full-on headwinds and?
Oh God, it was so demoralizing. It's one of those times where you think, why do I do this again? This is where it feels like it's the elements are doing everything they can to push you back down the trail.
Yeah. It's quite an exposed trail as well, because it is flat overall, is compared to some routes, but I clocked that you'd kind of set this FKT on it. I know you weren't going for it. I I think it was part of a wider run, wasn't it? Like a team.
Yeah, it was. So the World Championships for all the ultra distances were cancelled last year. So the governing body, the IAU, put together a solidarity run where they invited teams from all over the world to take part, and so I helped form the British contingent, and I think I was the only one on our team to do a trail.
Really?
Yeah, which I found sort of quite surprising, because I think, if you were being told that you had 6 hours and you could run wherever you like, it's not really a race, so we don't have to try and beat anyone.
Yeah.
Just go out and run and sort of embrace the sport and that sort of thing. I think I'd probably run on a trail, and so I did, and yeah, I'm glad I did. It was a bit of an adventurous day, as you know, that course,
Yeah.
because you've done the race, haven't you?
I did the race last year. Yeah, that was kind of the start of my 2020 when we could race.
Oh, it's look, when not knowing that there was a pandemic ahead, it's one of those things where you think, God, I wish I'd been really on it and
I know.
just been up for cramming in a few more races
Yeah,
earlier on. Other, not knowing that it would be your last chance.
I know. That was my last race, first and last race of the year. Well, no, sorry, not last, but kind of before the summer at least. And yeah, it's a bit of a last minute entry, and it's an interest. I don't know. It's an interesting course. How did you find it? Would you do it again?
Yeah, I would actually. The first half. I mean, I'll probably do a few other things before then, doing it for a second time. But the course starts off in the sort of Thetford pine forests, and it's quite reminiscent of Ultra Vassan in Sweden.
Okay.
And so I really like that. And being in the woods, it's quite sheltered. And so for the first half of the race, you're unaware that it's blowing a gale outside of the woods. And so every time you sort of come out of the woods, you get sort of knocked over. And then you go back into a sort of cover and you think, oh, geez, thank God that's over. And then the second half of the race is pretty much all exposed.
Yeah.
And also slightly uphill. But yeah, I'm quite fond of East Anglia in general. So
Yeah, I mean I feel like I'm spoilt around here. There are some beautiful places to go and run, and quite a variation, like you say, with forests, and you've got coastal trails, the edges of fields, which makes up some trails. But it is quite a variety. I'd do it again, I think. But I think there are also other trails that I'd probably like to have a crack at.
When I was doing that, actually, I was using your GPX thing.
Yeah.
And there was one point where you took the wrong turn.
Did I?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Or maybe it was a glitch on the watch, but there was probably about sort of 200 meters where you missed a turn, and you sort of went off. And
I know exactly. I know where you mean. You're on a road at that point, and I remember my downfall. I was talking to a guy who was running next to me, and I just totally didn't clock. Did you take the same wrong turn as well?
Well, so I examined it before I went, and so when I got to that point on the run, I thought, that's where Tom, that's where he went. I'm going to go this way.
There's definitely a path that that you should take.
Yeah.
I was just
misleading.
And you can actually you can follow the road round and it does join up, but I think that would be semi cheating yourself out of running the full path. So I'm a stickler for sticking to the route.
Absolutely.
What I'm interested to know. So, out of all your ultras and races, what is your favourite distance to run?
Um, I probably I'm gonna say probably 50 mile,
Okay.
but I haven't actually done, and I meant to once again this year. I was meant to do one of the Centurion 50 milers, and
Yeah.
I've never actually done a 50-mile race. I've done a sort of 75k and done a few 100Ks,
Yeah.
but I would sort of say that my experience from both of those would sort of put it somewhat in the middle. So I think probably that.
The Pedder's Way is about 48, I
It's
think.
like 48 or so. Yeah, exactly. So
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I yeah, I'll keep an eye out then. I'm keen to know what you would do over a 50 miles. Um,
well, only time will tell.
yeah. Have you got any your eyes on any this year, perhaps?
Well, I really like to, and I've had a place in it for the last couple of years, but it's been cancelled or I've realised I've oversubscribed myself. But the North Downs Way 50, um, another Centurion race,
Yeah.
which I think I've got to give it a go. Um, so probably that for the time being.
Yeah, I've only ever heard good. Well, like we were saying earlier about Centurion events, but North Downs 50, I've heard a lot of good things about. Um,
Yeah,
I I don't think I've ever raced a 50-mile run, like a 50-mile
it's a
event.
bit of a weird distance.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's.
I
I mean,
guess they're all kind of weird distances.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
guess.
why would you want to run that far?
I mean, yeah, when you start talking about like 90k and then 75k,
Yeah,
100k, it's just like whatever distance goes, I guess. Um,
yeah,
but I guess 100k is a bit more standard than the others. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Um,
it's an official distance,
well, true.
so just World Athletics have proved.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking of which, did you see the Jim Vormsley record attempt?
Oh, yeah, I
Or
did. Yeah,
yeah.
unbelievable, right?
I mean, fantastic. I
Yeah.
mean, quite an emotional thing, really. I think. I know it was a massive. Uh, it was, you know, a big Hoka stunt,
Yeah.
but it sort of achieved some fairly sort of impressive and quite inspiring feats, I think.
Oh, hugely. Um, I mean, yeah. I, how you? What I don't understand. I guess what I can't understand is how you can be so close over that distance. Um,
Yeah,
to be within how many seconds? 10, like less than around 10.
yeah, I think it was about that, wasn't it? 10 or 11.
Yeah. Just to be that close is just unbelievable. But um, yeah, Jim's he's a top runner.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued to see what he does next. Um,
yeah. He's a nice guy as well.
yeah,
He's,
like was he one of your when you're in the Western States? Were you?
yeah, I had a good. He was really generous with his time, actually. Once more, I was sort of fanboying him.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, really, we had a really long chat and had some food and I just sort of had a bit of a debrief. And I thought, you've just sort of achieved an incredible feat here. Do you want to go home? But he didn't. He sort of hung around for a bit. And then in Sweden, I had a chat with him after the race. And even Lizzie, my wife, did. And um, yeah, no, nice guy. Yeah.
He comes across really well. He's obviously very serious about what he does.
Yeah.
But like you say, I don't know if you find this in the kind of world of ultras and maybe trail running, but just the people you meet and the whole community. There's just so much support, and no one's precious about it. Everyone's happy to offer advice and talk to
Yeah.
you. And you know, if people are out there racing against each other, they've obviously got their own agenda and their own goals, and they're taking it seriously. But
Yeah.
over the finish line, It's such an awesome community, and I think that's one of the things I really like about it. And
Yeah.
perhaps what I've missed quite a lot in 2020, not being able to travel and go to events. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, no, we just had to learn to adapt like the rest of the world.
Yeah,
So, you know, whether that's virtual events or calls like this, or, you know, we're still a community. It's just that we can't embrace each other with really sweaty hugs, and you know, it's different. But
yeah, it's
uh,
true. I think, I think even just being around people like some of the other runners, people like Jim, anyone that you go and see at a race just helps to keep you sort of motivated.
yeah,
Which, I don't know, I guess has sort of been lacking, and I think people are possibly finding it quite hard at the moment, not kind of knowing what's coming up, or not
yeah.
not really having a concrete goal to aim for.
But I think that's all right. I mean, my head is certainly not in the racing
No,
headspace, and I think that's fine. And it's been that way. Well, I sort of hung on to hopes of doing a race well into the summer last year, and then after a while, I just thought, I don't know, maybe COVID made me reflect on what's important and what we should be using our energy for, or and I don't know, it sort of shifted my perspective, and I suddenly found that I'm not really that bothered about racing for the time being. After all, I just want to go out and clear my head and be grateful that I can get out. And yeah, so I've been running for enjoyment rather. There was definitely a point at the end of the year before and into the following year where I think I took racing a bit too seriously. I don't really say that very much, but it's, race training was becoming sort of, I don't know, it's easy to get obsessed about things. I think as ultra runners generally, we're probably obsessive types.
yeah,
Um, you know, uh, and yeah, there was a point where I just thought I just need to sort of back off a little bit. And I would get very nervous before turning the line. It would feel like, school cross country all over again. Back in the days of cross country around Ipswich, and you know, I used to feel sick before the race,
yeah, yeah,
uh, and there was sort of an element of that. So it's been good actually just to be able to just mess around, um, and not have to think about racing. But when racing comes back, great. We'll,
yeah.
we'll
No,
think about that then.
I'm totally with you. I think you've just got to enjoy it at the moment, and not put too much pressure on yourself. I think during last year, I don't know about you, but I just kept training quite hard because I didn't know what was going to happen.
Exactly.
And now I'm at a point where I'm not running as many miles a week, but I'm not bothered. I'm just enjoying what I'm doing and getting out when I can. So
That's completely right. It was because the goalposts last year kept moving,
yeah,
and so you back in the anal days of training for races and trying to peak at a very specific time.
yeah,
Um, if you're trying to peak for something, a date that keeps moving a couple of weeks down the line, you're really going to knacker yourself out. And I think I started to certainly do that, and I think probably quite a lot of other people did too.
yeah. No, I'm guilty of that, and I got a few things in, but I can't keep doing it. I'm going to break myself, if I try and keep that up. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Well, I won't keep you too much longer. I'll let you enjoy your Saturday night. But
Yes, it's enjoyable
I
talking.
was going to say, what would be the next goal in 2021, depending on what happens? Have you got your eyes set on anything at all, or is it just enjoy and see how it goes?
I think it's certainly that. I mean, I think that's sort of all I want to do at the moment. I am signed up to a race in Slovenia, the Ultra X thing over there, which looks like a very beautiful course. But who knows whether that will go ahead. There's also plenty of other stuff going on in the UK at that time, supposedly. So I'm not going to make any claims about which races I'm going to be doing right now, but if I get to go to Slovenia, then that'll be fun. But if I don't, it's no biggie. There's lots of other stuff going on in life, and you know, the world will continue to change, won't it? So we'll see. We'll see. Well, maybe we'll touch base again in a few months' time.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm keen to know what how the next few months pans out for you. And the Ultra X race looks really cool. That's the world champs, I think, is it?
Yeah.
That's kind of early summer, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that'd be awesome if you can get out there. But like you say, I think it's just a case of see how things go, and then yeah, just take it one day to the next is the way forward. But just get out there and enjoy it. Yeah, no, thanks very much for joining tonight, Charlie.
Hey, it's been good to talk. Thank you.
Where can people find you? You're on Instagram, right?
I'm on Instagram. If you like a blend of mostly plant-based things with occasional running. So yeah, I'm on there. I think it's at charlie.harpur.
Yeah.
With a U. It's a weird spelling.
I really like your feed because it is an eclectic mix of a bit of everything, which is good. It makes a nice change from just sort of seeing running, or which I'm guilty of. I just post a lot about running, but no, it's cool to see what you're up to.
Well, that's good. That's fine,
Yeah, well, post about what you enjoy. Yeah, thanks very much, Charlie. It's been awesome to catch up and talk about all your running and your journey into the ultra world. And yeah, massively looking forward to seeing what the kind of future holds for you in the next year or so. And we might see each other on the line of some event at some point.
See you back in Suffolk at some point.
Yeah, definitely. I cannot do the accent.
You can't. So you can't do it like Ray Fiennes or something like. Have you watched The Dig yet?
I've not seen it. No, have you?
Yeah, it is. I recommend it. It makes Suffolk look. I mean, it's Sutton Hoo, so it's in your kind of neck of the woods.
Not far away at all. Yeah, no, I will watch it. I've not got around to it, but I cannot do the accent for the life of me. So I'm not even going to attempt.
Oh, come on.
I can't. No, I honestly can't. I've tried and failed many times. I just sound. Cool. Cheers, Charlie, and we'll be back here, trailruns.co.uk, for all the information, or on Instagram at trailrunsuk. We'll keep these live sessions going throughout lockdown, providing some motivation and inspiration, hopefully. Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot, Tom.
Cheers. See you.
Bye.